On a warm July evening in 2020, Las Vegas was alive with neon and nightlife, but inside one upscale home just off the Strip, a deadly encounter was unfolding. Police were dispatched after a frantic 911 call to a residence tied to Ash Armand, the reality TV gigolo. When officers arrived, they discovered 29-year-old Herleen Dulai lying unresponsive in a bedroom. She showed signs of severe blunt force trauma and strangulation, injuries so brutal that investigators immediately treated the scene as a homicide. Blood traces and smears on walls and flooring hinted at a violent struggle. In the bathroom and kitchen, police noted what looked like hurried attempts to clean up: wet towels, cleaning products, and smudged streaks on tile. The house itself, once a backdrop for Armand's glamorous escort lifestyle, had become eerily quiet, with overturned furniture, broken glass, and personal items scattered across the floor. Detectives documented each item in photographs and began securing samples for DNA and toxicology tests. Before we dive deeper into this shocking case, a quick note to our viewers. This channel was originally called The Lawyer's Justice. Over time, many of you have come to us for coverage of crimes with a very specific pattern: relationships between older women, younger men, and the darker corners of the escort or gigolo lifestyle. That's why, starting with this episode, we're officially rebranding as Cougars and Gigolos, the True Crime Podcast. This new name reflects our focus on a distinct niche of true crime stories, cases where passion, power, money, and sometimes secrecy collide in deadly ways. We're still committed to legal accuracy and detailed research, but now every story we cover will connect to this fascinating, often dangerous world. Long before the flashing blue lights of that July night, Ash Armand was known for something very different. Born Akshaya Kubiak, he carved out a niche in Las Vegas as a high-end escort and fitness trainer, ultimately becoming a breakout star of Showtime's reality series Gigolos. The show followed a group of male escorts navigating the glitzy but secretive world of wealthy clients, giving Ash a kind of cult celebrity status. On screen, he was marketed as the exotic spiritual yoga gigolo, mixing fitness, tantra, and companionship, a persona that made him one of the most talked about cast members. But off camera, friends and acquaintances described a man living hard, experimenting with drugs, and constantly balancing his public image with a turbulent private life. Herleen Dulai was more than a name in a court file. At just 29, she radiated a sense of purpose and curiosity about the world. Friends remember her as vibrant, warm-hearted, and quick to laugh, someone who could light up a room without even trying. She had recently moved to Las Vegas, drawn by new professional opportunities and the city's promise of reinvention. Professionally, she was involved in health and wellness, blending fitness, holistic practices, and a fascination with spirituality. Outside work, she loved travel, yoga, and meeting new people from different walks of life. That open-minded nature, friends say, sometimes led her into unconventional circles, including the world of high-end nightlife and escort culture, which may have put her in Ash Armand's orbit. To understand this case, we have to see Herleen not only as a victim but as a full person, someone with goals, relationships, and hopes for the future. Her tragic death stands as a stark reminder of how easily glamour, risk, and secrecy can collide in dangerous ways. It was just after dawn on July 17, 2020, when Las Vegas police received a 911 call from a man later identified as Ash Armand. He told dispatchers that a woman inside his home was unresponsive. When officers arrived at the two-story house in a quiet residential neighborhood, the front door was ajar and the inside eerily silent. Inside a bedroom, officers found 29-year-old Herleen Dulai lying on the bed, face up with obvious injuries. According to the arrest report, she had severe bruising to her neck, chest, and arms, as well as blunt force trauma to her head. Paramedics quickly confirmed she was dead. Detectives noted signs of a struggle: furniture pushed aside, a lamp knocked over, and clothing scattered across the floor. In the bathroom and kitchen, they found wet towels, a mop, and cleaning products that appeared to have been used recently, suggesting someone had tried to clean up blood or other evidence. In statements later obtained by police, Armand said he and Dulai had been taking psychedelic mushrooms together and that he blacked out, claiming no memory of what happened after that. But investigators collected photographs, DNA swabs, and surveillance footage from nearby homes to piece together a timeline. The autopsy would later list the cause of death as strangulation and blunt force injuries. Within hours, detectives concluded the injuries were inconsistent with an accidental overdose or fall. They detained Armand at the scene and began questioning him about the events of the previous night, a decision that would ultimately lead to his arrest and the court case that followed. From the moment officers stepped into Ash Armand's home, the evidence told a story he couldn't control. Detectives saw bloodstains on baseboards and door frames that had been only partially wiped. They collected these swabs, along with clothing from the hamper that still bore fresh stains. They also photographed scratches and bruises on Armand's arms, hands, and neck, injuries consistent with a struggle. His first big mistake was calling 911 without a clear explanation. He told dispatchers that the woman inside had just collapsed, but when questioned at the scene, his story changed several times. Detectives noticed his erratic behavior, pacing, mumbling about mushrooms, and contradicting his own timeline. The second mistake was leaving visible traces of a cleanup attempt. Wet towels, open bottles of cleaning chemicals, and partially scrubbed surfaces all pointed to a rushed effort to hide evidence. Investigators documented everything and later matched his fingerprints to items used in the cleanup. Finally, Armand's phone records and nearby security cameras showed inconsistencies. Timestamps that didn't match his statements, and footage of him leaving and re-entering the house when he said he hadn't moved. All of this, combined with the autopsy report confirming strangulation and blunt force trauma, made a murder charge inevitable. Within hours of the discovery, detectives transported him to the Clark County Detention Center and booked him on suspicion of murder. His glamorous gigolo image had collapsed into a mugshot, and the long legal process was about to begin. Ash Armand's first appearance in Clark County Justice Court came just days after his arrest. Wearing a jail-issued jumpsuit and shackles, the man once known as the Yoga Gigolo stood before a judge as prosecutors outlined a charge of second-degree murder with possible enhancements for deadly force. At his arraignment, he entered a not guilty plea, but over the next 2 years, hearings revealed a growing stack of evidence: DNA linking him to the attack, autopsy results confirming strangulation and blunt force trauma, witness statements, and records of his inconsistent stories to police. His defense argued that drugs impaired his judgment, framing the killing as an unintended outburst rather than a premeditated act. By mid-2023, after negotiations, prosecutors allowed Armand to plead guilty to voluntary manslaughter and mayhem, a serious felony for disfigurement or permanent injury, in exchange for dropping the more severe murder charge. In open court, he admitted to causing Herleen Dulai's death during what he described as a drug-fueled blackout. Family members of Herleen Dulai gave impact statements describing their grief and outrage, while the judge stressed the brutality of the crime before setting sentencing for later that year. The plea deal guaranteed prison time but left open a wide range, 8 to 20 years, depending on how the court weighed the evidence. On sentencing day in late 2023, the Clark County courtroom was silent as Ash Armand, once a glitzy Las Vegas reality TV escort, stood to hear his fate. The judge reviewed the plea agreement, the autopsy results, and the impact statements from Herleen Dulai's family before delivering a blunt assessment of the crime's brutality. Armand was sentenced to 8 to 20 years in Nevada State Prison, the maximum range allowed under his plea deal. He was immediately remanded into custody and transferred from county jail to the state's correctional system. His bright social media presence vanished overnight as he was stripped of his online accounts and given an inmate number. Life after conviction for Armand has been a stark contrast to the glamour he once portrayed. Instead of VIP suites and high-paying clients, he now lives in a regulated cell block, subject to strict schedules, work assignments, and limited visitation. Occasional news articles and the Paramount Plus documentary Sin City Gigolo keep his name in the public eye, but he has largely disappeared from mainstream media. For Herleen Dulai's family, the sentencing brought some closure but also lingering questions about how drugs, fame, and secrecy could converge so violently. For viewers, the case stands as a sobering reminder of the hidden dangers inside seemingly glamorous lifestyles. As the credits roll on this case, we're left with a stark contrast. A man once celebrated as a seductive symbol of Las Vegas nightlife now living behind bars, and a young woman's life cut short before it could unfold. This story of Ash Armand and Herleen Dulai isn't just another crime headline. It's a window into a hidden world where passion, power, money, and secrecy can spiral into violence. Here at Cougars and Gigolos, formerly the Lawyer's Justice, we're rebranding because cases like this deserve more than quick coverage. Our new name reflects our focus on this very specific niche: the intersection of relationships, age gaps, money, and high-risk lifestyles. By shining a light on these stories, we hope to inform, caution, and give voice to victims who too often get lost behind the glare of celebrity. Stay tuned for more in-depth looks at cases where desire, power, and secrecy collide. And remember to like, subscribe, and share so more people can understand the real stories behind the headlines.